He smiled for the camera, not knowing it would be the last photo he'd ever take. In the dim light of his apartment he held up his phone, snapped a selfie, and froze. Not because of the grin he saw on his face, but because of the shadow that loomed just behind his left shoulder. A figure that shouldn't have been there. Because he was alone. Darren Wells wasn't supposed to be there. Not in that apartment. Not on that street. Not in that city. He'd planned to spend the month in Los Angeles editing his latest series about haunted European forests. But somewhere between his flight back from Romania and a missed connecting train, he rerouted to Portland, a city he didn't particularly like, but one he thought would give him some peace and quiet. Maybe it was the exhaustion, or maybe it was something else, something that whispered to him in the back of his mind. Either way, he ended up in a quiet, rain-soaked neighborhood, standing in front of a red brick apartment complex with moss creeping along its walls and windows that looked like tired eyes. The listing online made it seem cozy, cheap, furnished, short-term lease, available immediately. Just what he needed. The host never showed their face, only communicated through text. No phone calls, no meetups. The lockbox code was sent with a simple message: "Let yourself in. It's waiting." That should have been the first sign something was off. But Darren wasn't easily rattled. After years of documenting eerie places and sleeping inside crumbling hospitals with pentagrams on the walls, a cryptic text didn't faze him. Inside, the apartment was cold. Not just unheated, but unnaturally cold, as if the walls had absorbed decades of winter and refused to let them go. There was no smell of mildew or dust, no creaking floorboards, no flickering lights. Just silence. The kind of silence that presses in on your eardrums. As if something's holding its breath. He unpacked lightly, his camera, a drone, a bag of clothes, and his laptop. The rest he left untouched. The fridge had a faint hum, but it was empty. The bathroom mirror had a faint crack across the top corner, like a spiderweb frozen mid-snap. In the bedroom, the closet door refused to stay closed. He'd shut it before lying down and find it open again by morning. Not wide open, just a few inches. Enough to suggest something had peeked out. Or in. Darren told himself he was imagining things. Jet lag. Stress. Psychological leftovers from days spent filming in Hoya Baciu Forest. A place infamous for unexplained disappearances and sightings of strange lights. Still, he found himself glancing over his shoulder more often than usual. He stopped walking past mirrors at night. He unplugged his camera equipment when not in use. Not out of paranoia, he told himself, just habit. But then the dreams started. The first one was vague. Just a hallway. Dark, stretching endlessly. The sound of water dripping. A hum. Like a voice trying to speak through static. He woke up with a dry throat and the feeling that he hadn't been alone in the room. The second dream was worse. He was lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to move. A shadow moved across the wall. No footsteps. No breathing. Just movement. Then the pressure on his chest as if something had climbed onto him, pinning him down. A whisper, inches from his ear, "I see you." He jolted awake, drenched in sweat. His bedroom light flickered once, then went out. When he turned it back on, the closet was open again. This time wide open. That morning he noticed scratch marks on his forearm. 3 long, uneven red lines that hadn't been there the day before. He checked his camera. He hadn't recorded anything overnight. He never left the lens cap off anymore. He didn't want to know. He texted the property owner. No response. He called the number listed. Disconnected. When he tried to cancel the booking through the site, the listing had vanished. No record of his reservation. No host profile. It was as if the apartment had never been available to begin with. Still he stayed. Because Darren Wells didn't leave stories unfinished. This was just another piece of content waiting to be captured. Maybe even the best yet. A real haunted apartment. No scripts, no acting. Just raw fear. But something had changed. The air felt heavier every day. His equipment glitched constantly, audio files corrupted, video playback distorted with flashes of something he couldn't explain. A figure maybe? A blur of movement at the edge of the frame? He couldn't tell. He stopped reviewing footage at night. The night before it all ended, he set up his phone on a tripod to record a quick Q&A for his fans. He smiled. He laughed. He answered questions about upcoming uploads and teased a real-life horror series. Then he ended the stream, turned to the camera, and decided to snap a selfie, just something casual, maybe to post on his story. He looked fine. But behind him, in the mirror on the wall, something stood. Not a reflection. A figure. Tall. Featureless. Black where it should have had a face. Arms hanging low like broken branches. He didn't post the photo immediately. He stared at it, zoomed in, looked over his shoulder. Nothing there. Looked again. The figure was still in the photo. He uploaded it anyway. He had to. That was the job. Minutes later, his fans began replying. Is this a prank? Who's in your room? Bro, what is that in the mirror? He never responded. By the time the police arrived, the apartment was silent. No sign of forced entry. No Darren. Just his shattered phone on the carpet. The screen frozen on the photo. That one final selfie. And behind him, the shape in the mirror. Still there. The photo should have been ordinary. Darren took dozens like it every week. Simple, unfiltered selfies to keep his audience engaged between larger uploads. This one was no different. He was in a gray hoodie, sitting cross-legged on the floor of his rented apartment, back against the wall, lit by the soft glow of a floor lamp. He looked tired but calm. He even managed a faint smile. But behind him, something didn't belong. At first glance, it was subtle. The kind of thing you might overlook unless someone pointed it out. A dark smudge, almost like a shadow cast by something just out of frame. But when you looked closer, too close, it stopped being a trick of the light. It had shape. It had weight. It had presence. It stood just behind his left shoulder, tall and lean, like a silhouette cut from black velvet. Its head was tilted slightly as though studying him. No face, no features, just a void where a face should be. And the body didn't quite match the room. It seemed to lean too far into the angle of the photo, breaking the perspective. Like it wasn't standing in the same space, but pressing in from somewhere else. Darren didn't notice it right away. He was scrolling through the comments on his stream, answering a few DMs, casually editing captions. It wasn't until someone messaged him directly, one of his more dedicated fans, that he even looked back at the image. Yo, that selfie you posted. Who's that behind you? He paused, checked the image, laughed a little, assuming it was a joke. He zoomed in. He stopped laughing. The light around the figure didn't behave normally. It was darker behind the shape, as though it was absorbing the dim glow of the lamp. And there was a faint reflection in the mirror on the opposite wall, barely visible but unmistakably there. The same faceless figure, seen from behind, facing him. His chest tightened. He set the phone down and stood up, turning in place, scanning the room. Empty. He walked into the hallway. Checked the bedroom. The kitchen. The bathroom. Every door was still locked from the inside. No windows were open. He was completely, undeniably alone. Except he wasn't. His phone buzzed again. Comments were pouring in now. People were sharing the image, reposting it, tagging him. Some thought it was a stunt. Others were scared. A few were angry. Not funny. This better not be fake, man. Delete it. Seriously. That thing freaked me out. Look at its hands. What the hell is wrong with its hands? Darren checked the image again. He hadn't noticed before. What looked like hands were resting just above his shoulders, but not quite touching him. Elongated, with fingers that curved too far, knuckles bent inward. The way they hung reminded him of marionette strings. He wanted to delete the post, but he didn't. Something stopped him. Not pride. Not stubbornness. It was almost like curiosity, or obligation. Like whatever he'd caught in the frame wanted to be seen. So he let it stay. The next hour was a blur. He paced the apartment, replayed his stream, looked through every file from the past few days. Nothing. No strange figures. No sounds. No signs. But he couldn't shake the feeling that the apartment wasn't empty anymore. Every shadow seemed to move when he wasn't looking. The corners of the room felt deeper. His reflection seemed a step too slow. Then came the knocking. 3 soft knocks on the inside of the bedroom closet. He froze. The closet had been opening by itself all week, but this was different. This was intentional. Rhythmic. Not the creak of warped wood or the shifting of old hinges. This was a hand. Knocking. Waiting for a response. He didn't open it. He grabbed his camera instead, set it to record, and pointed it at the closet door. Nothing happened for 10 full minutes. The air felt thick, like he was breathing underwater. Then, right as he reached to stop the recording, the camera shut off. Not powered down, shut off like the battery had been pulled, though it was fully charged. The room went dark for a fraction of a second, then the overhead light flickered back on. The closet was open again. That was when he decided to leave. He packed a small bag, laptop, hard drive, camera, and walked to the front door. It wouldn't open. The deadbolt turned, but the door wouldn't budge. Not stuck. Not jammed. Just unmoving. As if something on the other side was holding it closed. He stepped back. The lights flickered again. His phone buzzed once more. A direct message. No name. No profile picture. Don't leave. It's not done with you yet. He stared at the screen. The message vanished. No trace it had ever been there. The second message came in from a friend this time. Darren, are you okay? People are freaking out. That thing in your photo, it moved. He looked back at the image. His heart dropped. The figure was no longer behind him. It was now standing beside him. The apartment was silent when the police arrived. Rain tapped against the windows in slow, deliberate patterns, like fingers drumming on glass. No signs of struggle. No broken locks. No blood. Just an open closet, a flickering light bulb, and Darren's phone lying face down on the carpet, screen cracked, still glowing with the last image it ever captured. He was gone. The front door had been locked from the inside, both bolt and chain. Windows sealed. No fire escape. There was nowhere to go, and yet he wasn't there. His things were. His backpack half-zipped. Camera gear undisturbed. Laptop still open on the floor, battery drained, paused on a timeline of half-edited clips. But Darren himself? No sign. Not a hair, not a fingerprint out of place. He had simply ceased to exist in the space he was last seen. The officers didn't know what to make of it. The report was brief. Possible missing person, no forced entry, no foul play suspected. But something about the scene made one of the younger officers uneasy. When he reviewed the image on the phone, he asked quietly, almost to himself, "What is that?" There was no answer. The photo was taken at 11:02 p.m. He posted it by 11:05. By 11:17, his account had gone silent. No further uploads. No messages. No calls. Just void. Yet, over the next few hours, activity continued. Friends began receiving texts from Darren's number. Not full messages, just fragments. Sentences that cut off mid-thought. Words that made no sense. It's in the dark, can't look at it too long. Mirror not a mirror. Hearing my own voice where I shouldn't. It's making me. Some messages came with attachments, short videos. Shaky, low-resolution clips showing corners of the apartment. The hallway. The closet door opening slowly, frame by frame. The videos had no sound, no timestamps, and worse, no file data at all. As if they weren't created by any known device. Then his YouTube channel uploaded a video. It appeared without warning. Titled simply, "I Didn't Leave." It was only 10 seconds long. No thumbnail. No intro. No music. The footage was from inside the apartment. The camera faced the hallway, grainy and colorless. Darren's voice could barely be heard, speaking to someone off-frame. "Are you real?" he asked just above a whisper. No reply. Only static. Then the screen flashed and the video cut to black. A final whisper played over the dark screen, "It followed me back." The video reached 1 million views in under 48 hours. Then it disappeared. Not flagged. Not deleted. Erased. Even the people who had downloaded it found corrupted files on their drives. Screenshots blurred beyond recognition. Audio distorted. The platform claimed it never existed. But too many had seen it. Too many remembered. His account began behaving strangely. New thumbnails appeared on older videos, none that Darren had uploaded. They showed distorted faces, stretched and featureless, peering through windows or crouching in corners. One thumbnail showed Darren asleep in bed. But when fans revisited the actual video, it had nothing to do with sleeping. It was a hiking vlog. Then came the live stream. It happened a week after his disappearance. Late at night. No announcement, no scheduling. The channel went live on its own. Thousands of fans joined within minutes. The screen was completely black. But the sound, there was sound. Shuffling. Breathing. And then, faintly, a voice. Darren's voice. Broken, strained. I tried to stop it. I didn't mean to bring it here. It's not what you think it is. It wants to be seen. Then static. Then something else. Not a word, but a sound that scraped along the inside of every listener's skull. Something that didn't belong in the human register. Some viewers reported nausea. Others said they blacked out. One fan claimed the screen flickered once and for a single frame they saw Darren, but not whole. His face was missing. Blank. The stream ended on its own. The video was not saved. Darren's friends, desperate for answers, hired a private investigator. She spent 3 days in the apartment. On the 4th, she checked herself into a psychiatric facility. Refused to speak. The only words she would say were, "Don't look in the mirror." The landlord denied ever renting the unit to Darren. Claimed it had been vacant for over 6 months. No lease. No payment history. No digital trace. And yet, his belongings remained inside, untouched, sealed off by police tape that no one had dared remove. Over the next few months, similar reports surfaced. Other creators began experiencing strange glitches in their footage after discussing Darren's case. Clips disappeared. Files refused to export. Some claimed they saw him, in reflections in freeze frames and background noise. A subreddit was created to compile everything. Theories ranged from elaborate viral marketing to full-blown supernatural possession. But one post, now deleted, stuck with those who read it. It claimed to be from someone who lived in the building years earlier. They said the apartment had a history. People who stayed there disappeared. Not always physically, sometimes mentally, sometimes spiritually. Some left behind photos. All with the same shadow. The same faceless figure. No official investigation led anywhere. The police closed the file. Darren's family held a memorial. His fans still leave comments on his last posts, like he might one day answer. But he won't. And yet, the photo still circulates. Sometimes, when someone downloads it, the figure behind Darren is in a slightly different position. Closer. Taller. As if it's still moving, frame by frame, through every screen it touches. Waiting for someone to see it. Waiting to be let in.